everybody. Let's take a moment to whatever you are, sit comfortable with your spine going up. You're more than welcome to mute yourself if you like. If you have some people that you share the space, if you're by yourself, then it's not a problem. And then close your eyes. And let's just do a few deep breaths to be able to, center our energy. This is the way that we always start. Inhaling deep and slowly exhaling. Just a few breaths. Inhale. Slowly exhale. You're breathing. Putting an invisible smile in the corners of your lips. And bringing your concentration between your eyebrows. Activating Ujjayi Pranayama. This is the first pranayama that we learn, and you will be tested on the test. Describing that sound breathing. Exaggerating the breath, bringing the shoulders back. Respiración Ujjayi, una respiración profunda, sonora, consciente, llenando los pulmones. And we can engage slightly the Mula Bandha. Podemos enganchar un poco al Mula Bandha, lifting the pelvic floor, levantando el piso pélvico. Without losing that smile, without losing the drishti, concentration between your eyes. Just bringing the fully presence here. Just allow yourself to be here now, to observe this ancient knowledge and philosophy of yoga. Om Gam Ganapataye Namaha. Om Gam Ganapataye Namaha. Om Gam Ganapataye Namaha. Om Bhurbhuva Swaha Tatsaviturvarenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yona Prachodaya. Om Sarasvatiye Namaha. Om. Taking a moment to acknowledge all my teachers that had shared all this knowledge with me and giving thanks for all these blessings and Welcome, everybody. Thank you for being here in our Origins of Yoga. I flew to India. I'm in the Taj Mahal. I went there and I decided to get the books from India here. But I'm super happy to do this class. I feel that it's so important, right, for us to really understand what are we studying? What are we studying? And really have a lots of honors on carrying this ancient torch of knowledge that has been passing down from thousands and thousands and thousands of years ago to you, to me, to us, right? So there's something very precious and it's something very special on carrying with tradition, right? The world needs tradition. We need values and ethics on how to, do certain things. Otherwise, becomes like a wild world. So these scriptures has everything, has all the information and all the knowledge and absolutely everything. So I had to create a PowerPoint presentation. Just give me a moment. So let me get started with this. Let me just put my glasses back on. And then let me look where it says, there. I guess it's this one, share screen. Let me know if that works. I think it did work. And so it will be this one. All right. Can you guys see my screen?
Yeah.
Yes.
Perfect. Wonderful. And so I'm going to start talking and just let me go through some of the presentation. Then I will give you guys a moment to do questions and answers. And then we also will have a bathroom break to stretch the legs and go to the bathroom. Because if you, go to the bathroom in the middle of the class or in the middle of in general, then you will, lose some of the information, and we definitely don't want that. So yeah, so we're going to be studying now the history of yoga. And then for that, we need to go back and see where is this coming from. Yeah. So we have first here, you have a picture of the Hindu Valley, and it's dated around 3,000 years before Christ. Okay, so you can see the area is between Nepal and also Pakistan and China. So it was very, very extensive. And around 1900s, they had some archaeologists working in some of the temples in India, and they found some ornaments that clearly look like yoga asanas. It was like Baddha Konasana, like the butterfly, and like triples. So because it was, contemporary, they had all different ways to test it. And they test with their products and their machines. And they determine that those were dated around that time. Okay. Then we have here some of those that I am just mentioned. So here is the Baddha Konasana, and they had all these structures. The swastika is not from the Nazis, just to clarify. This is representing the four stations of the earth that we go through, like winter and summer. Like that.
Sorry. I'm gonna get my headphones. For some reason, it's my volume is like so, it won't go any higher, and I can't really hear you. Is that okay?
Sure, sure.
Okay,
Okay.
sorry about that. You're back.
Here's a few other ornaments that they found on those temples. So you can see Shiva Lingan is what it's like a stone that Lord Shiva is worship, and then a yoga asana as well. You guys can hear me okay there? Okay.
Yeah, but I had to change like the setting because for me earlier it also wasn't that loud. I had to just change it to
Let me see if I
speaker
can.
versus.
Gotcha.
But it's not you. It's not you. I can hear you fine now.
Okay. No, yeah, I do know something. We are in the city. So let me see maybe with this how this will look like. You guys let me know if it's better. Because I'm also first time doing this type of work.
Now I can't hear anything. Can you guys?
So you guys all. Is that better? Can you guys?
It's actually worse.
Oh. Bull mummer. So
It
without
was,
it.
I think without it is better, but Liv, if you go to like the
Okay, got it.
like, did it work for you?
Sorry. Yeah, for the headphones. Yeah, it was a little
Oh, it's
yeah,
better now?
yeah.
Okay. Oh,
Sorry. Thank you.
No problem.
good then.
Yeah, so basically they found these ornaments and the symbols that represent clearly the yoga asanas that we were doing, and they find out that they were very old. Then we have the pyramids of Egypt, 2650 years before Christ. So we have an idea where we are on the world with history, right? So the Hindu Valley, around 3,000 years before Christ. Now they found this ornament, they tested. Now we have the pyramids. We have the Wall of China, 221 before Christ, another monument of humanity. We have the Roman Empire that was very extensive as well, 27 before Christ. Wait, sorry about that. And you go back with this. Ahí está. So with this, we can understand that the Hindu Valley, where the yoga is coming from, really was the oldest and most ancient civilization, right? This is proven by history. So with this, you have an idea, right? And then we have another civilizations like the Incas in Peru, like the Mayas, that we can also put it in there. But more or less, you can see that even the Roman Empire that was, did so many changes and create so many different laws, they were way after than the yoga philosophy, let's say. So then moving forward, now we start our topic of the Vedas. Now, the Veda means knowledge, and so the Vedas were books of knowledge. This is the oldest books of knowledge of the world, and again, dated around 2,500 years before Jesus Christ. Okay, long time ago. And there are four books 4 books of knowledge: Atharvaved, Rigved, Samaved, and Yajurved. All right. Now, we need to use a little bit of our imagination, right? Can you imagine how was the world 2,500 years before Christ? You know, like it's a little bit more communities living like in a village, right? A little bit like the tribes set up. They have the elders, right? They have the healer. Women will be taking care of the children and the food, and the men was the hunters, right? Because they needed to provide. So a little bit like that. And what we can say about this time is that the form of yoga that was being practiced, which is really our goal, was mainly a meditation practice and worshiping of the elements. So the elements, they were considered like God. Los elementos eran considerados como dioses, because imagine that you are like in the jungle, right? Very primitive lifestyle, right? Number one, worship from the times of the times is the fire. And still, until today, we do fire ceremonies. I will be so happy to find you one, because it's such a thing. It's called Vedic fire ceremony. I have done many. It's a ritual. So these yogis from long time ago, they were considered these elements as gods and goddesses, and they were doing their meditations and going so deep into their meditations that they were connecting with that object of adoration. What was the object of adoration? Who was God for these yogis 3,000 before Christ? The source of life, ¿verdad? Who is God? Who is giving me protection and life? The sun, the fire, the water, right? Because without that, they were going to die. They will perish, no? Without fire, no, couldn't resist temperatures, and without the earth and fruits and vegetables, they couldn't. And many cultures do this. I mean, the Egyptians were worshiping the sun, like the Hindus, and in Peru, they still worship Pachamama. Pachamama worshiping the earth. So as they were doing these rituals and they were getting very deep into their meditations, when you go so deep and you connect so much with that divine being that we mentioned in class the other day, which is that information is coming from the Vedas, that you have, so your soul is called Atman, and the super soul of God is called Jiva, or Brahman. So Atman and Brahman are the same. Atman is a mini soul of God, or Jiva is a mini soul of God, and Brahman is God. And they're one. In order to realize this, you gotta become an awakened one, or a Jivan Mukta, they call it, one that has been awake. So all this is coming from the Vedas. So when you go into these states of meditation, like these yogis did, they start getting downloads with the information about everything that exists. And back on the days was not even books. They were basically sitting around a teacher, and they were singing with hymns and mantras, and it was all like in a verbal transmission. One second. So here has a little bit of some of these books, 4 books of knowledge. So we said there are 4, and you can see here, let me see if I can make this smaller. You can see we have Rig Veda, that are about worshiping gods and chanting. This is one of the most advanced. Yajurveda, that has a way to worship more with the intellect. Samaveda, again, worshiping the gods, now using dance and music and arts. And then Atharva Veda, that was rituals for daily life. And then inside each Veda has these different parts, how they were dividing this information. Again, some were rituals, some were meditations, some were hymns and prayers, and that's how the information was being passed on. Okay? Here's a little bit about each one of them. Someone wants to read about Rig Veda?
I'll read since I'm unmuted. Atma, Paramatma, creation, genesis, death, rebirth, liberation. A collection of poetic hymns invoking and glorifying many gods and goddesses, which are personifications of different aspects of nature. Agni, Vayu, Varuna, etc. Highly symbolic language with metaphysical and philosophical ramifications.
Okay, so it kind of makes sense. Again, you need to use, again, your imagination. 3,000 years, 2,000 years before Christ. And yes, the sun, the fire, Vayu, the air, the wind, they were all gods, considered gods to these Asian yogis. Okay, then Yajurveda.
Sacrifices, mantra, bhakti. Mantras used for sacrificial yagnas or extended rituals.
Yeah, so yagnas are the fire ceremonies. So sometimes you can do a fire ceremony because you're starting a new career, because a baby is arriving. We do fire ceremonies for weddings, for any type of blessings. And in these yagnas or fire ceremonies, we make an offering for the fire. And so you can offer rice, you can offer incense, you can offer flowers, constantly with mantras. Okay, and then things happen. Anybody else wants to read some Veda so you don't, stay?
I can read.
Mhm.
Hymns from Rig Veda, Karma Kand, rituals has mantras from Rig Veda, but these follow certain rules of prosody and tone for accuracy of effect. Relates to sound and its effect on the human mind and body.
So again, they were passing these Vedas, making this singing using hand gestures. So it was be like, Om Bru Bhuva Swaha Tat Savitur, and it had like a rhythm. And eventually they start putting in writings. They realized that humans had perishable memory and intelligence. So they say, no, we need to put this in writing. But initially it was all, all singing. And then the last one.
Prayers, magic chants, philosophy, meditation. The mantras here deal with the ordinary world and acquisition of material gains.
And this is a Tarva Veda very well. So you have an idea what these books are more or less referring to. Yeah. And let's move forward. What else is in here? Okay, this is a little bit about when these Vedas, they are incredible. Basically, these yogis that were meditating and they were achieving those samadhi state that we are also going to take a look in the Yoga Sutras. You have different levels of enlightenment or connection or download. But until today, actually, even the NASA, today, NASA is studying the Vedas because they arrived to conclusion that this information was really given from a higher power or higher beings or something. Because look at that. And first, this is incredible information of the Vedas is already telling in the Rig Veda, and you can see that the shape of the earth is like an asteroid. So let me tell you, 3,000 years before Christ was no machines, was no microscopes. It was the only way that they could come to this conclusion was because the source or God or the creator of the universe, they went to such a yoga state, such a state of pure unification with the Father of all, that source told them this information, which it was impossible for them to know without, having an airplane and flying around the earth, right? So this is all described there, right? It's saying, and I put a little bit more details exactly what verse, right? Aitera Brahmana 3.44 says, the sun never sets nor rise. When people think the sun is setting, is not so. Basically, the sun sets for us, right? Like now, the set is going to, we have the sunset, but the sun is rising in another place, right? Why? Because we are in a circle earth. So this was already all there in the Vedas, yeah? So it has really like mind-blowing information. Then it says that earth is flat at the poles, talking about, the gravitation law that was already many years later presented by Newton. So a lot of information. We keep doing that. This is also nice. There are planets in all directions, but only visible in the night sky. So basically saying, yes, we don't have just one planet. So it has many planets. And not only that, they describe planet by planet. They describe Saturn. They describe the moon. They describe all the planets of the Milky Way. Again, just in their meditation, they get into a trance. And in that trance, they got all this information, right? Like basically downloading all this for them. And then, yeah, like I said, has some commentary of some modern scientists, but basically, that's the conclusion, that these yogis were indeed connected with some higher beings or supreme consciousness, more advanced than us, because it was no possible way in science to explain that, how they could know, right, all this information 3,000-4,000 years before Christ, right? That's impossible. So that is the power of meditation. So in this time, it was not a lot of asanas. The asanas were the sitting postures. That was the yoga. And the worshiping, right? Rituals and meditation. And one more thing I gotta say about the Vedas, and this you wanna also write it down. So in the period of the Vedas, you can write like this, was the yoga was about the connection of the subject or the individual, in this case, the practitioner, me, the yogi, with the object of adoration. Okay, again, I will repeat. In the Vedas, 2,500 years before Christ, the practice was about the relationship of the individual with the object of worshiping, which in those times and in that case were the elements as gods, right? Fire, sun, the moon, the water, the earth. And that was how they were doing their practices. Then we have another period called the Upanishads. Now we are like 1,000 years later, more or less, 1,000 years before Christ. Now, Upanishads means to sit near. That's why I also put that image. It was an enlightened teacher, an enlightened master, and it will sit and the people will gather and they will share these topics. And now the Upanishads are considered the last part of the Vedas. They're also books of knowledge. There are 108 books. So, in the Upanishads, actually, what happened was a little bit of critique. They criticized a little bit of the Vedas. That's the reason also that we don't say that yoga is dogmatic, meaning it never changes, because look, now it changes. 1,500 years later, hay un cambio, has a change. So let's take a look at what is the change. And now the Upanishads are considered from a higher knowledge. Okay, it's almost like has an evolution. So, what is that is happening in the Upanishads? Write this down. Now, the subject or the individual lose interest on the outside objects. And starts inquiring within. Ahora el individuo pierde el interés en objetos exteriores y empieza a indagar hacia adentro. So again, the practitioner or the subject or the individual or the yogi starts losing interest on these external activities and starts inquiring within, inside, more of this as a basic questions like, who am I? Why do I need to hunt? Why do I need to, build my house? What is it raining? All this. Why do I am suffering? Why do I'm going through this? Basically, the same questions that we are asking ourselves. La misma cosa. Nothing has changed, huh? 5,000 years ago, and now I'm still the same. Oh my God. Oh God. Right? But they ask the same. Oh my God. Here, he was working hard and doing all this sacrifice and, right? Imagine, and hunting and building the house, and here comes strong storm and wash all off. And so they start saying, why I am going through this? So now is when we start seeing a more advanced, actually in the meditation in itself, and in more of these revelations. Also here, we gotta say that more yoga asanas is starting to appear, because these yogis, they were doing what we call retreats. I also mentioned this. That was meditating for long periods of time. Okay? We're talking about meditating for maybe 3 months, maybe 3 years. And you can still see this in India. It's incredible. You walk, you go to the sacred places, and then, you will see a yogi, and he is sitting in meditation for months. Hair is growing, nails are rolling, and like that. More than anything, they are in the caves hiding, but sometimes in special dates, sometimes they come and kind of like they share a little bit of that energy that they are experiencing. So in this, again, deep meditation states, they were receiving all this information that we're about to revise a little bit. And don't worry about writing, because I'm going to give you this presentation and you can read it again like that. These yogis, they were receiving these downloads when they become in pure unification with God, or the source, or however you want to call it. That sensation was full of happiness, pleasure, joy, just complete satisfaction. And because it was so intense and so beautiful at the same time, a lot of the yogis didn't want to break their meditation. That's why the asanas were created. The asanas were created to support these yogis physically, to stay stronger, to last longer periods in that state of trance. They were sitting under a tree, they were sitting on top of the snow, they were in the forest, they were barely with clothes, they were barely eating. And so naturally, if you are a human being, you still have a human body, right? And you are 3 months, around ants and then the rain and or snow or look whatever it was, eventually you will get sick. And your body will start deteriorating and you will fall off of meditation because your body will basically collapse. That is the reason that the asanas were created. And the only reason to stay stronger, to be free of disease, and that way put the body aside so the body wasn't an issue and they could focus even more deeply and achieve those meditation states. All right. Some of this information that came from Upanishads, which is, again, the more advanced part of the Vedas, 108 books. There are many different Upanishads, Manduka Upanishad, Kena Upanishad, like, the Yoga Method, so many. But first they said, okay, Brahman is the supreme reality of God. Brahma is like the creator of the universe and is the only absolute reality. Everything else is like the movie, like Matrix. We think that we are operating and we're doing this action and the other action. But beyond all this, the body will decompose. Your car, your apartment, your assets will decompose. Therefore, it's not real because it's not going to exist in a couple years. So how real is that, right? Now it exists, in a couple years becomes dust. So how is that real? So this is one of the announcements that, everything is Brahman and that's the only reality. It's beyond description. Brahma is everything and everywhere and omnipresent and eternal and has abstract and all forms and is beyond we can, we saw a little bit on that picture in the yoga school, right? It's like we are in one galaxy with 9 planets, has millions of galaxies beyond that we can't even know. We don't even know, actually. Is not known. We just know that there's millions or trillions of galaxies, and the galaxy is almost also infinite and even has black holes that who knows where does it go. All that is coming from this source, right? Because again, the word God can be tricky for some of our brains, it's like, what is, sometimes it's, complicated mention God, but you know what I mean. And then number 3, that source or that God is worshiped in various forms, male, female, and has many names. So why are we fighting for religion? It's a shame. This is because we have not received that enlightenment or that awareness or that intelligence to be able to understand that beyond the names, is that one source. One source. Yeah. And then it's talking about Dharma. So the Dharma is the mode of conduct most conducive to spiritual advancement. Basically, everybody has a Dharma. Everybody has a life mission, a purpose. Maybe you are here to learn something that you didn't learn on your past life, right? Learn to forgive, learn how to be more humble. Maybe something that you need to do, and it would be great. The sooner that you find out, the better, because then you're going to enter a soul evolution, hopefully to higher planetary divisions, because, as you know, has many planets and many levels of consciousness. So we need to find out. We need to find out, and the way to find out this Dharma, so we need to work in our spiritual body, right? We're not here just to work for money. We ended up being so involved, and I am just like you. I have a mortgage, I have permits, and the taxes, oh my God, and then bills and credit cards, and then out of the sudden you just wrap your life and your time, your beautiful time, your precious life, in working to pay piece of paper with a value for these things, and they are not going to change your destiny. They're not going to diminish your suffering. They're truly not going to bring you more joy and happiness. It's just something that is part of the material lifestyle, right? Dharma is working on something beyond the material. Beyond the material. So again, maybe you're here to help something, do something that will, allow you to feel that it's not just for a material reason, your soul is involved. That's why it's really important. And, when we are young, sometimes we don't know what we want. I feel like, right? Maybe you come from a family that everybody was a lawyer, and now you expected to be a lawyer, let's say, and then like, okay, you are 20, now you gotta go to college and you be a lawyer, sometimes you don't know. Sometimes you really need to do some soul searching to really find out what is that you feel like sharing with the world from your heart, right? So sometimes people have a dome, no? Like it's just so clear. They can be a doctor, they can be a veterinary, they can be a singer. It's like clear that that's what they come to share in this world. There's no. Sometimes no. Sometimes we need to do some digging. But it's important to find out what is your Dharma, and then includes universal human values and specifics to that individual stage in life. Like if you're a student, if you're a parent, because if you're a student, then your Dharma is to get more knowledge and study well, right? And we have also a time for that. Like it's harder to study when you start getting more and more tired, right? It's hard to focus. And it's not for me, it's not the same with the Ayurveda college, for example. 3 years ago, I will retain more information. Now I gotta like really repeat. So then we have another concept, right? Karma. So everybody heard this word, karma. Karma is like a boomerang effect. Whatever you give is going to come back to you in one way or in another way. So we got to be careful and we got to be conscious, right? all our actions have an effect, a ripple effect. And look what it says on the Vedas. An individual's every action produces an appropriate outcome for him and her. Outcomes might span over a lifetime, meaning if you don't get your karma back in this life, you have another life because you have eternal soul. Some people have no, reincarnation is something that we still digestion is relatively new for a lot of people. Never thought about it. When you die, you're buried. And then, it's over, right? Then you have the concepts of heaven and hell and things like that. But even the Buddhists, they have the samsara wheel, which is basically a wheel, and the Hindus and the Buddhists are very similar. If you did good actions, karma is action. So if you have good actions that do good to you and to the world around you, then you will ascend. You will be prized. You will have more happiness and joy. If you promote others to be happy and in a loving environment, you will also be more loved and more, more abundance and more of anything. It kind of, multiplies for yourself. In the same way, if you have unconscious choices, which also includes the diet, again, one thing is having a fish from a fisherman here, your neighbor fish, and he gave you a fish, okay? And he was so happy to honor that, and he actually even made some of the fish free because he didn't want to hurt the fishes. He just took 2 fishes and gave you 1. That's one thing, right? But if you go and you just eat whatever they're served to you in any restaurant, or you buy whatever produce from the market without understanding what was the process for that thing to be in front of you at that moment, then indirectly you are also supporting actions that are causing pain and suffering to other beings. So it goes with anything, and that's why yoga is really happening outside the yoga school. That's why yoga is not about the asanas. It's nice what we can do or not do in the yoga mat, but it's so irrelevant. Can we be conscious all the time? Can we be conscious when we are, sometimes even with our loved ones or the family, the ones that are so close to you, maybe we speak badly because we're so intimate, we take them for granted, and then we cause, an action that create, suffering or frustration to the other person. So you can go so many levels, but you understand, right? Whatever you do, you need to always trying to do your very best to help your environment to be, more peaceful, more full of love, more full of compassion. And that is the walk in the talk, So we need to become non-ordinary human beings. That's why the spiritual journey, the spiritual path, be a yoga teacher, is way more than anything that we can do with our body, because now we need to live by example, And the other one here, another concept that we can read here is moksha. Now, moksha is the ultimate goal, which means basically self-realization. You are self-realized being, or like I mentioned before, a jiva mukta, jiva soul mukta liberation as well. So basically, moksha is freedom from samsara. Samsara is that, like the wheel, like in Buddhism, the same, is a cycle of reincarnation. Once you understand all this, now you understand with your rational mind, again, it can take many lives for us to really embody this information. So no judgment, don't overanalyze yourself right now, right? We are learning and we are starting to, well, what does it mean? What it means is that when you can see everything has a creation of the divine, when you can see that no matter if they're from Israel, from Palestine, from Africa, from Haiti, they all have the same supreme consciousness Father inside, and everything is coming from the same creator, and we're all a big spiritual family, a big human kind family, kind. We're supposed to be kind with each other. And we live the reality, not just like, oh yeah, well, let's all love each other and sounds so nice. Are we doing that? And I gotta say, I cried 4 times since yesterday from today about all these countries that are in war. I did because I'm an empath. I would be a hypocrite if I say love all and I don't feel what is happening in Ukraine, in Russia, in these places, in Gaza, in Israel, and also in so many places that they are in the state where this is hell, that is hell, right? So how can we avoid all that? And why is that happening? Why is that happening? Because of the ignorance that they cannot understand that beyond the religion, beyond the skin color, you gotta have that self-realization that we are basically coming from the one source and live their reality. No? So once you have that, then you are moksha. Then you don't reincarnate anymore. Yay! You ascend, like you go to the VIP planets. Yay! Sign me up. In these planets is no suffering. It's like heaven on earth, right? Everybody doesn't have disease, doesn't exist. Everybody's like fairies and angels and gods and goddesses. We can see this with our limit intellect. But if you think for a moment really, really well, do you think that in billions of galaxies with billions of planets, we are the only species and we are the most advanced? No, no. Clearly, we are not advanced at all. If you were killing children because one group of people are bad. No, so complicated. All this is because we are not in the state of yoga. That's why yoga is good for all religion. Everybody should really embrace this. And the ones that embrace, I also have seen Some other, there are now so fanatic religious, right? They are embracing each other. Yeah, we are together in this. And now they have a self-realization, right? They realize that cannot be that way. And elimination of material desires and attachments. Most wars and most problems that the whole world has is all because of money. Isn't that sad? It's all because of power, oil, petroleum, titanium, money, 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 money. Money doesn't bring happiness. Money doesn't going to take you out of the cycle of reincarnation. And you know how karma works? You know, they have saying karma is a bitch what it is, right? If you were so hungry for power and money in this lifetime, be sure the next life you will be a homeless, lonely, without any help. That's how it works. And you will suffer. No, the type of guys that we talk, womanizers that abuse from their beautiful looks and beauty and seduce women and play with women's feelings or abuse of women in any sense. Next life, they are the ugliest people in the world in a wheelchair, also completely alone, suffering. Always is going to get you. So if we wake up now, then maybe next life we can do better and we can be happier. Like I always pray for me to next life, I would like to be born in a family that practices yoga. Please, right? Because that will help. I mean, I'm not asking too much here, okay? Right? Because in my family, I'm the only one. That been talking about the subjects, about, purification and mantras and meditation and prayers and rituals. And look at me like, what are you talking about? But when I start, remember that I told you, my first yoga class, I decided that I needed to do the teacher training. And I did it 30 days later. So it was clear that it was something from my past life, right? Because it was just like, oh my God, what is this? All right. So again, Upanishads, 108 books, talks that everything has a birth, also has a scope for development. Like they have all this information about the law of gravity, the distance of the planets, how the X-ray works, the microwave works. How? Through their meditation. It's incredible. They explain all the futures of the planets, like I also have mentioned, Saturn, Venus, Jupiter, not because the one has a ring, the others is red and exploded. Everything they knew. Yeah, details. Has even described how is the process of a fetus, of a new, a baby inside the mom's womb, 2 weeks, 4 weeks, what happens on 10 weeks, 30 weeks, with details. So it was not just, let me not think about anything. When they merge, when the yoga happens, oh my God, Liv was trying to. When the yoga happens and you are unified with the source, it's almost like you were possessed by God and God was just showering all this information. Incredible. Now, fascinating. That's why, the Vedas is like, and that's why we need to really carry yoga with so much honor, right? So much pride in a way. Right, so let's do one more and then maybe We can take a little bathroom break. So it has many things about that are impressive on the Upanishads. One of the things that they disclose is about the antimatter. The antimatter is exactly the opposite of normal matter. The antimatter atom, so this is proved by science. So this is really good to know. Again, knowledge is power, because we have a lot of people that are very skeptical and, not religion, not spiritual, I don't know, prove that God exists, all this. Well, here we go. It's in the Vedas. So the antimatter atom will consist of a proton, an antiproton, and an antineutron. And this theory means that there is a parallel universe. And this parallel universe could be the spiritual world. What it's trying to say is that we are coexisting in different dimensions. According to science, has this molecule that creates matter, everything that we can see and touch, and has this other molecule, which the composition is right there, where we can see the spiritual world. I mean, literally, we cannot see the spiritual world, but that doesn't mean that doesn't exist. We just doesn't have the abilities to perceive that reality. But according to science, yes, exist the antimatter and the matter. So the antimatter will be the representation of the subtle world, where all these different beings are there, like, for example, how can we describe you seeing someone that already had passed away in front of you? They already burned, buried, and out of the sudden you can see them clear, like a picture, because it's the dimensions of the antimatter, and that's the composition: an antiproton, antineutron, and positron. Okay, so far so good. Try now, Malala. Yeah, I cannot see. Oh, okay, so good. All right, sorry. If you have a question, you can ask me too. Let's just finish the Upanishads, and then we'll have a little. And then I has another theory. I just, it's really mind-blowing and so interesting. So I just want to share a little bit of this. So another thing that was described in the Upanishads is about these two theories in astronomy. So we have the theory of the Big Bang, and we have the theory of the steady state, which is different. So the Big Bang says the following, right? That billions of years ago had a Big Bang, like an explosion, right? And these microorganisms came out of the explosion. 1 second. And from the explosion, these microorganisms came out, and as they go through different temperatures and contact with H2O and water, they start kind of like developing themselves, and they become like again like a fetus, and then from the fetus they had one wing, and then the other had two one leg, and then became like a frog. And then slowly, like the theory of Darwin, right, that the species slowly, with millions and thousands of years, slowly has an evolution from this Big Bang, and then eventually the frog became some sort of chimpanzee, like a monkey, and from the monkey we came. Something like this, right? So millions and millions of years, these microorganisms were developing themselves through the different elements and temperatures, and eventually we are here now. But then has another theory, right? Basically, once arrived to the humans, like that's it. There's no more evolution. Like this, this is how far we went. But the steady state says that basically through the hydrogen, the universe has always been exist and is always expanding, meaning we did not finish yet the evolution. So is still room for more of this process. And so again, this is all in this Upanishads and these Vedas, and very, very fascinating. Little bit of the difference here, again, between the Vedas and the Upanishads. So the Vedas is the oldest Sanskrit literature from the Hinduism, and the Upanishads is part of the Vedas, but is, you know, more towards the ends and more the advanced ones will say. We already saw that has 4 Vedas, and then has many Upanishads, 108, and then from the 108 has 13 that are like the main ones. And then in the Vedas is all about the rituals to the fire, and the Upanishads is more about how the individual is perceiving his relationship with the world. So it's not about the world, it's about who am I and why I'm in this position, and why is my karma like this, and who is the one that talks through me, is all the in, right? And then we also learned that the Vedas means knowledge, but another word here is not from a normal man. So the Vedas definitely was, who knows, you know, maybe these beings came from another galaxies and gave us all this information. And Upanishads means to sit near a teacher. So we always need a guru. I'm very blessed that I have authentic gurus. Guru means the one that removes the darkness of ignorance. The first gurus is our parents, if you like them or not. They told you fork, they told you chair, they told you walk, no, something, they taught you something. And then we gotta look for more and more teachers that share with us valid information, like I'm doing to you right now. And okay, that is about more rituals and traditions. And again, Upanishads is about, you know, really understanding the Atman or the spiritual enlightenment. So they wanna connect. They understood that source that created the fire or the sun or God is inside us. So we don't need to worship the external because it's inside. So very beautiful. And finally, you know, when it was more or less rhythm, so we already saw that. Okay, do you guys want to have a bathroom break? Drink some water. And están ahí? Don't tell me I'm talking to myself. You can unmute.
I'm
We
gonna
don't
run to
need
the
to go to
bathroom.
the bathroom.
I'll run
Oh.
to the bathroom really quickly.
So you guys want to come back at 8, like a 10 minutes break?
That was so good.
Okay, so I see
That was
you.
amazing.
I see you in
Okay.
10 minutes, huh?
Okay.
7:55 more or less. Have a snack, have a
Okay.
drink. Let me stop the recording. All right, so welcome back. So I wanted to introduce this personality of Ramana Maharshi. I also ask you to do a homework and research a little bit about him. And he is not from the Upanishads time, but he is an incredible example of the types of downloads and connection with God that you can have. And he's, you know, not so long ago. So he was born in 1879. So, contemporary, more or less, to our time. Now, he had this incredible thing happen to him. He wasn't a monk and he wasn't like a super advanced yogi, but he had instantaneous enlightenment. He went to buy some groceries for his mom. He was 16 in this small village, in India, near this sacred hill called Arunachala, which is here on the picture. Yeah, this is Arunachala mountain that is now considered, that is Shiva, Lord Shiva, that I also mentioned before. So he was going to buy some groceries, and then he had this thunderbolt, boom, got enlightened. Okay, he was going to the market and he got struck by this self-realization that we were mentioning before, and he became enlightened. So enlightened that he was basically possessed by God, or by Ishvara, which is another name for Brahman or God, or Shiva. Different. Remember, God has different names and different interpretations, but he became God. He was possessed by God. And then he entered this state of super meditation for many, many years. Many years. So here's a little quote: don't believe your thoughts. I am the body is a thought. I am the mind is a thought. I am the doer is a thought. Worry is only a thought. Fear is only a thought. That is only a thought. So you basically, he create a technique called inquire within. So you can write this down. Inquire within.
Oh yeah, I wrote that.
Inquire, como te pregúntate, within, hacia adentro. When all thoughts are still, pure consciousness remains over. So basically what he is, he is an incredible guru, incredible master, has many books in all languages possible, all around the world. But to shorter the thing, when you have a thought, and I had applied when I can his technique, because coming from God himself, enlightened master, like let's say, I'll give you an example. I had heartbreak 7 years ago, 6 years ago. I was hoping that I was moving forward with this boyfriend that I had, blah blah blah. I went to Brazil to visit my family. When I came back from my vacation with my family, he basically wasn't into it, and basically we broke up, right? And I just had arrived that same day, right? So I was like, looking forward to see him, blah blah blah, and this happened. So I immediately got sad. I immediately got depressed, heartbreak, how it is. I was sad and angry and disappointed, and all these emotions traveling so fast. I was start crying. When you cry, that's it. That then here comes the wave, it eats you alive. And so I start doing the technique. I say, so you gotta get the thought. So let's say you think, I am depressed or I am sad, and you get this and you turn that thought towards yourself and you inquire within. Te preguntas a vos misma, who is sad? Is Victoria's body sad? Is Victoria's mind sad? Is Victoria tongue sad? Is Victoria heart sad? Who is sad? Because Victoria is usually not a sad person. I'm not sad. I'm not, that's not in my nature. And then because you take this thought and you can do this, you know what? With hunger. I also do that. I am hungry. That's a thought. And then you turn the thought back to you, miras el pensamiento de vuelta a vos mismo, and you inquire within, y te autocuestionas, ¿quién tiene hambre? Who is hungry? And there you go, layer by layer, right? And you will get the answer, right? Is my mind hungry? You know, sometimes you're bored, right? You're bored and you got to munch on, so your brain starts like having more oxygen, that's right? Or is my tongue hungry? You know, you just want to feel some pleasure, which that's what happened with me sometimes. You know, you just want to rejoice in a little chocolate. Or you get, who is hungry? Is my stomach hungry? Is my body hungry? And you go through the different layers and you inquire within that desire or that emotion or that thought, and you peel the onion, ¿no? Le sacas las diferentes camadas a ese pensamiento until you realize that you are not hungry. You're not. You know when you're hungry? You know when we only supposed to eat, and only when we have hunger in the stomach, when the stomach is making noises, right? Sorry, you know, crawling, then we eat. Otherwise, we're just eating for one of those reasons, for pleasure, bored, because everybody says we need to have lunch, so we have lunch because everybody's having lunch. And the sad, the same thing, you know. Who is sad? And you realize that, you know, maybe your heart is sad, but it's an emotion. It's not the totality of yourself. And because it's an emotion, you know that it's a wave and it's not permanent and it's going to pass. So when I realized that, when I did Ramana Maharshi technique, then I start doing some sadhana, I start chanting. I have many harmoniums. I have a harmonium here, harmonium is good. So I start chanting in the harmonium, and within 10 minutes, I was back to myself. I was no longer depressed. I was no longer crying, and I was no longer sad. And I was back to normal. I start cooking and cleaning and move on. Before yoga, I will had a breakup last me months of suffering and dwelling. Oh my God, he loved me, he didn't love me, he left me, la la. Now with yoga, it's completely a different game. It's about going with the flow and acceptance, and I love myself, and all is God, and it's all for a reason, it's all good. So very nice. So definitely you wanna connect with Ramana Maharshi, if you know, however you can. So this is another little quote: do not meditate, just be. Do not think that you are, just be. Don't think about being, you are. So it's not such a thing like becoming enlightened. It's not such a thing like becoming happy. You are already that. But because of the layers that we have from TV and the media and the religion and the family beliefs and all that, you know, then we start not being who we really are and adopting different identities, you know, false identification. Now, the most cool thing that I you know, it's just incredible. So Ramana Maharshi, When he got struck by that enlightenment, like a thunderbolt, boom, dropped the milk and the bread in the street after he went to do groceries for his mom. And he entered this state of samadhi, of yoga enlightenment. And he went to a mountain, there in Tirumalai, where you can go as well today. And he was inside the caves there for 23 years, inside the cave, in a state of deep meditation. Okay, and here you can read a little bit. Okay, so when he was 16, he got this self-realization experience, and then he was basically 17 years in one cave, basically naked, eating almost nothing. The first disciple of Ramana Maharshi was his mom. And then soon enough, he had many, many disciples. Basically, people started talking about him. And he was one of the ones that first he was in silence for all that 17 years. He was just in meditation, guys, in a cave, basically naked, like just a little shorts. And his mom would drop little water in his mouth and maybe a little bit of soup here and there, like each 10 days maybe. But he was always in meditation because he was just downloading. God was just talking to him constantly. God was inside him. And that was, so people start gathering around him, also meditating, sitting and meditating around Ramana Maharshi. And through Shakti path, remember I wrote on the board, through the transmission of that download, that energy, people will also get enlightened. He was known by the silence teacher for some time. And then after, he went to another cave. And then eventually, his mom passed away. And then he came down to the town where they built the Ramana Maharshi ashram. And you can go there and you can stay there and you can visit and you can maybe do some karma yoga and learn meditation. So it's incredible. Can you imagine, guys? 23 years in a cave in a state of meditation. Finally, after many, many years, the Americans, of course, he had disciples from all around the world, but it was the Americans that kind of insist. You start talking, you start telling him, Guru, please, just tell us how it is in the other side. What do you see? What is, tell us a little bit more. What are your experience? We want to know. And so after some years, he broke his silence. And then he told us how is the technique. The technique is to inquire within yourself. Okay, when you have fear, when you have a self-doubt, when you have a stress, get that thing back to yourself and see who is really experiencing that. And you will see that a 90% of the thoughts and desires and emotions, they're like dust in the air. They disappear. They're not real. They are vitris. They are waves. Here comes the wave. Now the wave is gone. It happened. Now it's gone. So all we need to do is to take deep breaths and remember, I'm experiencing fear, but I am not fear. Whatever happens now, I'm safe. That this is the present moment. Very interesting. Okay, moving forward. Now we are in the epic period. So this is 600 before Christ, and the epic period was epic, as it says itself. So we have a lot of mythology here. So the first thing that is mentioned here is the Ramayana. Here's Rama, and this is his brother and his wife, goddess Sita. And here is Hanuman. He is the king of the monkeys, half a man, half monkey. And if you ever go to India, has monkeys everywhere, and be careful. But Ram and Sita, Ram is a reincarnation of Vishnu. And we didn't talk a lot about the trilogy, but I have mentioned a little bit. We're going to talk more on the Om symbolism. But I have mentioned a little bit, right? Trilogy, the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit. And in Hinduism, we have Brahman, which is the creator, or as formless. Today, nowadays, doesn't have a form to be worshipped. Then we have Shiva, that is hardcore one, Lord of Tantra Yoga. It's like the punk rock, right? He has rastas, and he smoked ganja, and he, tantra, so, and he did transformation and destruction. So Shiva destroys, and again, that also goes about the war, right? Something needs to be destroyed to something new emerge. That's how it goes in a way. It's a process, right? We also were, the earth also were full of volcanoes and fire everywhere. And then we also went through an ice age, right? And now we're here. So it's kind of like how is the process, the creation and destruction. Brahma and Shiva. Then we have Vishnu. You can write Vishnu is the avatars that are coming to earth to remind us to be good to each other. No, they are the good ones. They are the preservers. So in the lineage of Vishnu, we have Vishnu. Then we have Ram right here, Ram. And then after we have Krishna. And then after Krishna is Buddha. And then after Buddha is Jesus Christ. They're all one expression of God. They're representing, it's like different times, different reincarnation is the same person, the same spirit. So here, Ram and Sita, the Ramayana is really beautiful. It's like a soap opera, to be honest with you. Rama is representing the most ethical warrior, this, full of qualities of justice and strong. And his father was going to put him as a king. But his father had 4 wives, and he had promised to one of the wives, I owe you a favor. And then when he was going to put Ram as king, because everybody knew that he had this God energy, like he was very special, this wife came, she got jealous because it wasn't her son, it was the son of another wife. And he said, my dear king, that you owe me a favor. So now I want the favor. And I want my son to be king. And I want to exile Ram for 14 years to the jungle. Imagine. And so the king is like, it's a soap opera. And the king crying was like, no, ask me anything, don't ask me that. Ram, everybody knew he was the one, the chosen, the special, the blessed. And he was devastated, and Ram told himself, no, you need to honor her wish. I have no problem. Exile into the forest, no problem. My dad, don't suffer, don't worry. And he left, he was the son of a king. So he had, like Buddha, same thing, like life of luxury and everything and the palace. And then he needed to move to the jungle in a little palapa. And then I love Hinduism because all the gods have a goddess, right? So perfect. So here is Sita. Here is Sita. Sita was crazy about Ram, and she would just follow Ram everywhere he go. And in the moment that this happened, he told Sita, no, Sita, you cannot come with me. You're a princess. That's the jungle is not a place for a princess. Just stay in the palace. Don't worry. I love you. I will wait for you. And Sita, my lord, I just want to be with you. Also representing, all this mythology always have hiding messages. And what does it mean here is that the supreme consciousness of God wants to basically experience how is to love God through another being, in this case, a female, a woman, right? So everything is God, as we learned before. So God is experiencing how it is to love God himself through the love of its beloved, which in this case is Sita. Then you will know in the Bhakti Center has Krishna and Radha. The same thing about devotion and love. So Sita, like, forget about it. I'm going with you to the jungle. And wherever you go, I'm going. And she follows him. And they were in the jungle for 14 years. But because everybody knew that he was, a God-sent personality, the other kings of other states that were demoniac and evil, they, again, has many years, 14 years of story. I'm not going to tell you the 14 years, I tell you little highlights. So they kidnap Sita, and has a demon, and the demon comes and kidnaps Sita and takes her to Kolkata. That is one island in the end of India. And that was crazy and that was terrible. And then here comes another personality where you can see here, which is Hanuman. And Hanuman, like I said, is the monkey god. Hanuman is the name of the pose when we do the split, right, in the asanas. Why? Because he built this connection, like a big line, to be able to help to save Sita from this demon. So the demon flew away and took Sita away. And then Hanuman here, what he represents is the pure devotee. And you might want to also write this down, because we need to understand what things are, meaning, and what is the effect that will have on us. So when we chant Sitaram, 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 Jaya Sitaram, let's say mantra, Sita, Ram, the beautiful, lovely couple, we are calling Hanuman, the monkey god, because Hanuman, all he wants to do is to serve Ram, his lord. And Hanuman is like Superman, is a super monkey. He can fly, he can lift mountains, but being the stronger of the whole world, all he wants to do is to serve Ram. So anyhow, to finish the little story, Hanuman flies to Kolkata, which again is like in the end of India, finds Sita, finds where she was in jail, enters the jail, opens the bars, finds Sita. Sita, I'm so happy I found you. My Lord Ram is so afflicted that you are not there, and he sent me to rescue. Let's go, Sita. Come with me, and I will take you to Lord Ram. And Sita, being a beautiful princess and a woman, says, no, 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 no. If your Ram wants me, he better come get me himself. Okay? So Hanuman flies through the sky with his superpowers back to Ram, back to the forest, and say, hey, Lord, I'm so sorry. I actually found Sita. She was there, but no, she wants you. She doesn't want me, and you need to go get her. So then this legend said, so they built this bridge. They wrote Ram in each rock, and they built this bridge with rocks. And these rocks are floating rocks, and you can still today visit the bridge in India. So is some type of rocks that they have lightweight and they kind of float in the water. And so then Ram could walk through the bridge to this big stretch, like basically they use the stones, but in one moment, Hanuman was like, don't worry, we're running out of stones. Let me just split my legs. And he made like another bridge on top of the floating stones bridge. And then Lord Ram walked through the bridge and rescued Sita. Okay, so many more stories go. Imagine it's 14 years. But another thing that you might want to know is like Diwali is a huge festival in India and originates from when Ram finally, after 14 years of being expulsed of the kingdom, he finally returns. And this is called the Festival of Lights. So in India, like Brazil Carnival, well, in India they have Diwali, and it's 14 days, and they have the Festival of Colors, and it's 14 days of pure happiness and celebration, because it's the representation of Ram coming back, of the lights coming back, of justice coming back, of the path of goodness coming back to the kid. So this is a little bit of that. And then we have also the Bhagavad Gita, also known has the Song of God. This is also part of the epic period. You have all this beautiful mythology, Hindu mythology. Now, this is happening. This is the Mahabharata. The Mahabharata, have you guys seen the movie Brave Earth with Gibson? Are you guys there?
Oh, we're shaking our heads.
Oh,
We're shaking or nodding.
Well, just imagine like this movie of in a battlefield, right? So this is what happened. So it has two armies in the Mahabharata, and basically this happened around 300 before Christ, and is the story of these two families that they gotta go to war. No, in one side is Arjuna, and Arjuna, here comes the Bhakti Yoga. Yeah, Arjuna is best friend with Krishna, and he thinks that Krishna is his friend. Yeah. So what Bhakti Yoga is teaching us is that we need to create a more intimate relationship with God, right? Instead thinking God is some superpower behind the sun, in the sky, in the clouds, and abstract. I can't even conceive how it is. You are going to create more closeness with God. Like God can be your father, your celestial father, and you treat, dear Father, please protect me in this journey, whatever, right? Or it can be your best friend, like Arjuna and Krishna, or it can be like your lover, like some gopis in India. They, we put henna and we put our most beautiful ornaments and we go all dressed up like princess to the temple because we are dressing like God is our, our lover, and we're going to do our best to look like, right? So basically, the whole Bhagavad Gita is the dialogue between Krishna and this warrior Arjuna on the meaning of life, right? So what happened is in the other side of the battlefield, I also had mentioned this before, Arjuna is a good warrior, again, representing justice and ethics, and he needs to bring peace to the kingdom. And this is what we need nowadays. We need some Arjunas to come in and bring and reestablish the peace. And in the other side was the ones that he needed to go battle with, but it was not just evil people. Those evil personalities and those, in a way, demons that were violating women and you were destroying the village, burning everything because, you need to pay your tax. You have a bread shop and you need to pay me 0.5% of whatever you make, otherwise I burn your house and I rape your daughter. And that's what they were doing, with the barbarian times, right? They were burning everything, coming with the horses. And so Arjuna was the good one. But he needed to fight with his own family. The other side was his cousins, and it was even his archery teacher that taught him how to use a sword. He needed to fight his own teacher and his brother. Now, can you imagine you kill your own brother? So Arjuna had that panic attack and he had a meltdown and he started crying and sobbing. And I'm like, I don't care if they call me like a coward. I will not shed the blood of my own sister, my own father, my own brother, my own uncle. I cannot do it. And he sit down in the chariot and he just cried out. And then, this is when this conversation start happening. Krishna take over the horses. Horses also have symbolism. Remember, all this has double meanings. We gotta really learn in between the lines. I'm still learning, as you also learning. The more that I sit with my teachers, the more that I have understanding of the symbolisms. But basically, the horses are representing the senses. So what is showing here is that God is holding the senses. What are our senses? What is that we need to control for yoga? Number one, the tongue. We can't just, here, do you want some vodka? Yeah, sure. Do you want some lamb porks? Sure. You want some, you don't have control. You eat whatever's offered to you. You want to have a little sweet, you ended up having the whole thing. So first we need to control the tongue, and not only what we eat, well, we also speak. Sometimes, like they said, silence is golden, right? The tongue can be a very evil weapon as well when we are unconscious. So this is, what we see. All information from this world, we are absorbing and learning through the senses, these 4 horses, right? So that's why the spiritual seeker and the yogi and, like the music, like I love music. I was a dancer. I love to dance. I love all music, but some like of the hip hop lyrics are so heavenly sexual charge. It's talking about orgies and guns and killing and all this stuff. And then you have like a 10-year-old girl that doesn't even understand the fully meaning and is like shaking her butt, to all this super dirty lyrics. So while we hear, while we see, while we smell, that's why for me it's really hard sometimes to go out. I cannot be in any place that smells cigarettes. I immediately retrieve my senses inward and I just leave because I cannot. My senses have been purified by the practice of yoga, and I refuse to be in that type of contamination. So we need to control our senses, right? Who we let to touch us, what do we are observing through our smell, through our ears, through our eyes. If you watch a lot of violence, have you not happened to you before? And this happened with me. Like the more that you watch these videos or violence, then it contaminates your energy, right? You start being affected by it. So we need to use our senses more and more for yoga. More like if I'm going to watch something, might as well be the life of Ramana Maharshi, the life of Buddha, or trying to, of course, and sometimes you watch a comedy movie, no problem. But if you know what I mean, like I'm trying to use my senses so I can have a soul evolution, get out of the cycle of keep living and dying and reborning, living, dying, reborning, more suffering, more slaps in my face, same mistakes, same problems, same suffering. Let's ascend. Let's not suffer with bills. Let's not suffer with disease. Let's not suffer with, this type of material stuff. So, all of this is happening. And here's a quote on the picture. Basically,
I have a question.
uh-huh.
I mean, I have a statement, I guess. It's interesting you said that about the scary movies because, in general, just since starting the yoga with you, I haven't even really been on my phone as much. Like you said, you just naturally just kind of want to just do your yoga and just sit there and stretch, and it's so cool, actually,
Yeah.
just to, yeah, be with yourself and connected to God. It's so beautiful.
Yeah, that's true. Yes, natural is a process. The more you practice, the more that this natural will happen. But the Bhagavad Gita is a must read, and it is really God is talking to us. Isn't it beautiful? Like it's hard to no matter what is your lineage, whatever is your practice of spirituality, it's not easy to have a direct contact with that one that is the source, the one that holds the planets in their orbits. Like it's not tangible all the time. Some people never have experience like this. But the Bhagavad Gita is God talking to us for our modern times. So it's like, and he's telling what he's telling Arjuna is like he's telling to us. You are a warrior, and your duty is to fight. Basically talking about dharma that we just spoke about. We all have a duty. We all have a duty, and we need to fulfill this duty in this life. Otherwise, you're going to reborn and repeat the same thing, right? And so, and I mean, it's so beautiful. And it says, what else? Treat joy and sorrow, victory and defeat, gain and loss alike, and prepare yourself for battle. Go for it, because what he's talking about all of these topics that we're talking. He's telling Arjuna, you're not killing anybody because they're not going to die. Actually, you're helping them because now they have a bad karma, they're evil souls. We're going to end the cycle sooner. Therefore, they have a chance to reincarnate sooner and maybe do better next time. So actually, it's a good thing. Actually, it's a good thing. All right, so let's move forward. I don't know if we can read all of them. Maybe you guys can read it later, but it's talking about, the importance of self-realization, of to act without attachment. Everything that we do, we shouldn't like, oh, I want to do this because I want to get advantage, because I want to have more money, because I want to have more shoes. You always need to think in a way like, how can my work serve as a tool that I can gain? Maybe if you make money, you can use your money to, again, keep studying, or maybe take care of your health with wellness and good food and massage and treatments, acupuncture, whatever it is, so you can maybe do more charity work. We want to be facilitators and vessels of this light, right? And so, again, talking about Dharma and how to liberate ourselves of all this suffering, is mentioned also the liberation of the soul. I mean, this is one of the most important things that we want to do. We want to get out of the cycle of birth and death. Birth and death is like repeat, repeat, repeat. It's almost like you go to college and you don't pass. Okay, and you keep repeating the year until you get the correct notes. So again, what else is here? Talking about the Gita explains the material world Prakriti and its influence on individuals through the three gunas. This is very important. Goodness, sattva, passion, rajas, and ignorance, tamas. And we're going to also study that in Vedanta a little bit in another class. This is an introduction of the history, right? But we have Vedanta, and then we have Samkhya. And the Vedanta says only one is the source, and Samkhya says that is more than one. So in this case, is the Mother Earth, Prakriti, and Purusha, which is the supreme consciousness. And Prakriti is the female aspect, and everything that we can touch and we can see in this world around us, including ourselves, right? Everything that is material, everything that we can see and touch, has the three qualities, which are the three gunas. So everything, a feather, it will be more light, it will have more sattva than a rock that will have more tamas, or will have more heaviness or ignorance or lethargic, like this. And we'll again talk more about that. But the point is that is in the Bhagavad Gita that all this information is passed from Lord Krishna to us. He's telling us all these things, right? And then he's saying, okay, has 4 traditional paths for yoga. This goes on your test. We'll have a class on this, but where is appearing first time? In the Bhagavad Gita. Hay 4 caminos para el yoga. First here, yoga to self-realization, which is rajas, which is the study of understanding the mind and meditation. Then I also mentioned karma yoga, action. How you purify this crazy monkey is doing actions that bring good to others, and then you get more purification, like, again, help the homeless. Jnana yoga is the yoga of knowledge. There's no way to be enlightened if you don't have knowledge. We all need to study. It's not another way. And it's not from YouTube or Instagram. It's from the scriptures, right? From these books. And then finally, Bhakti Yoga, which is the yoga of devotion. Everything will become much more blissful, and you will enter more a state of unification with God if every act that is performed is done in a mood of like, I am serving. Now, let's say you're eating, and you can also like, okay, I'm eating because I want to nourish my body, because my body is in a way the vessel or the temple where this mini God, no, the Atman is living. Now, God is within me, so therefore I'm going to take care of my body because God is within myself. I'm not going to put alcohol or drugs in my body because God is in there, and I don't, God doesn't want this type of contamination. And I mean, it goes on and on. So I will highly recommend you guys to read this fully when you have more time. And then we'll have the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali. But we're going to stop the class here tonight. So, those have become too long. Let me open the screen again, and you can now ask more questions. But the Bhagavad Gita, yeah, is really, really amazing, no? Because it comes from the Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. All these people that also I was like, oh, they look a little crazy out there, but all this information is very incredible, very, very incredible. And so we want to, again, we need to study, we need to read, and we need to make our own conclusions from our own direct information, right? And not assumptions and not judgments of other people, how, these are. Again, religion can be a little tricky for all kinds of religions, but base of all good religions are these good ethics, like really understand that we are more than just a physical body, that we're here to do this soul searching to understand who we are in our deep essence. We are here to become more enlightened through love, to compassion, to friendship, to kindness, and to see everybody has equal, has us, including the animals. Why are we putting some species inferior or superior than others? It's all a brainwash. We've been brainwashed for decades. So it's not our fault, it's not our fault. I mean, it came this way. And I also was brainwashed by my family. Actually, I remember very well, my grandma would say, you must drink milk to have strong bones. And that was not true. Actually, overconsumption of milk will give you weak bones. So we need to unlearn, do your own research. You neither need to believe any of my words. I'm just kind of like bringing some of these facts of these books, but you know what is the best way? When you do your own research and you go and you sit in front of a Vaishnava guru, which will sit from this, Krishna lineage, and we go in a Buddhist center and we just see what happens. How do we feel? Do I have any, transformation? Do I feel anything? And then, slowly you start doing the Dharma, no, the soul searching work. And once you get there, and then life is really amazing. Life should be amazing, and you have the right to be happy and to fulfill all your needs in any levels and in any possible way, but has, things that we need to do to get there. So again, if you have any question, feel welcome to unmute yourself, and we'll continue with the Yoga Sutras another day. So that way it's not too extensive. Definitely start, you can read about all this that I'm talking in your manual. You have the different lineages, so you don't need to go crazy. Read one page, and then you will, start getting more and more soak into all these topics. But if no one has any questions, let's do a nom to close the class together. So put your hands together. And always with a heart full of gratitude to be able to have a contact with these informations. And we're always grateful for all the gurus and the ascended masters that made this accessible to us today. Inhaling together. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Hari Om Tat Sat. All right, my friends, thank you for your attention. Thank you for your focus. I hope you enjoy as much as I did. And I will see you in the next class. Namaste.
Thank you so much for your knowledge, Victoria. It's beautiful to learn.
Yeah, thank you.